Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com here with a 1-bar basic video for the Stamina-based Sorcerer class in the Elder Scrolls Online Update 29 Flames of Ambition. This video is going to teach you the basic fundamentals of the Stamina Sorcerer and how to be effective with only 1 bar. We will cover passive active skills, gear, champion points, rotation, and priorities, and what makes the Stamina Sorcerer unique among the other classes in Elder Scrolls Online. If you can see from this video, the Stam Sorcerer can hang in solo veteran dungeons, and I was able to complete one solo with the hard mode with only 1 bar, and so can you. The full build will be out later this week, but now let's learn the basic about the Stamina Sorcerer. Timestamps are in the description below if you wish to skip ahead, as well as other important links. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn alerts on, and consider becoming a member so I can produce more Elder Scrolls Online content. Thanks for watching. So what makes the Stamina Sorcerer unique? I think it's 3 things: resource sustain, speed, and healing. Let's start with resource sustain. The Stamina Sorcerer's kit comes with some things that reduce cost. Unholy Knowledge, a passive here, reduces your stamina and all the other costs as well by 6%. You'll have Daedric Summoning that will restore some stamina or magic to you when a non-ultimate Daedric Summoning ability ends, and then also reducing your ultimate cost. Lastly, Daedric Protection, stamina and health recovery while slotting one of the abilities in the skill line. Dark Magic has Dark Deal. It's quite interesting. You can exchange one resource pool for another. So it's pretty handy to have a big, massive pool of resources and exchange magic for stamina. Another really cool way that Sorc maintains itself with resources. Now let's talk about speed. One of the most powerful abilities in the game is Hurricane. It does a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to use in this build. But what it really unique about it is Minor Expedition. You can stack major and minor buffs, in case you don't know. So Minor Expedition is quite hard to get. Only a few skills and a few pieces of gear allow you to get it. Major is quite easy to get. In fact, the bow, just having the passive here, Hasty Retreat, doing a dodge roll will give it to you. A gear set that we're going to use later on, Vicious Ophidian, gives it to us when mobs die. But it's really difficult to get the minor. So stacking major and minor on top is going to make you incredibly fast, not to mention all the other things that it does. Another mobility tool you have here is Streak. Allows you to zoom ahead, stun, and the stun cannot be blocked. Very, very effective. And if you pair it with some of the other things here, especially if you use a two-hander for PvP like Crit Rush, a gap closer, you can do a gap closer into a streak, turn around, gap close again. It's a deadly combination where you're just pressing basically two keys, making the Stam Sorc very, very fast. But really what I think sets it apart from everything else is Crit Surge. This ability is disgustingly powerful. Major Brutality, weapon damage 20%, 33 seconds, massive magic cost, but when you deal crit damage, it heals you for a massive amount, and it can occur every 1 second. Leaning with the speed and the healing to be very, very aggressive. The reduced ultimate cost, it makes it so that the Stam Sorc, the faster, the more aggressive you play, the better you do. So if you like that type of philosophy, this class, this build is for you. Some other things you can do really well. I don't usually use pets, but this one is very, very effective. You can basically have a pet out, recast it, and give you a nice, juicy heal. And also it heals other people as well. So it's kind of a cool little ability if you like that. You can also use Dark Deal here, not only to exchange resources, but to heal you like a truck. And you got an ultimate here, Absorb Fuel. Drop it down. Usually people use this in PvP to kind of get rid of area effects, but if you place this on top of your group, it's going to heal you fantastically. And this is all on the base kit. You do not have to go outside of a skill line, your own skill lines to get this, making it just incredible for new players to pick up. I think Stam Sorc really, honestly, is the easiest thing to pick up if you like the Stam fast, aggressive playstyle. So what you're going to do when you're leveling this thing, the weapon skill lines you're going to go with. 2H, very, very strong, both PvE and PvP. I primarily prefer it in PvP, though that has some great applications in PvE. Cleave, and the morph that can be Brawler, fantastic. Major Brutality, we're going to get that as well. Here's your main spammable. Dual Wield, primarily PvE. I absolutely love it. You got a fantastic Execute, which we lack in our class kit, with AoE to boot. You have another really powerful spammable that we're going to alternate in and out on this 1-bar build. You got AoE damage reduction. The list goes on and on. Bow has some really good dots. So you got arrow barrage here, area effect, you got poison injection on a single target. Both are very, very good. And you got sword and board. Sometimes I take this when I'm leveling up because it's just easier and more effective to tank and do some dungeons to get my Undaunted level. So if I was you, I'm starting this build out, what I would do is take one ability from my class skill line. Dark Magic, Daedric Summoning, Storm Calling. I would level them up and start progressing that way. And that way you'd level up all of these skill lines and their passives. The passives are really, really important. Plus you want to get the skills morphed in case you use them later in the future. Then I would take two weapons. Primarily if I'm playing PvE, I do dual wield and bow. Primarily if I'm doing PvP, I do two-hander and sword and shield. So if I were you, I'd do 3 skills on my bar, 1, 2, 3, Daedric Summoning, Dark Magic, Storm Calling, then I would go dual wield and bow. My main spammable throughout most of the game would be Bloodthirst, single target, then I would change it to Whirling Blades for AoE execute, and then I would do Shrouded Dagger. I would use the dual wield primarily for my main spammable. Throughout the game, my main heal would come from a different source. I would probably do the pet. You can get it pretty early on. If you don't have access to that, the very, very first skill you get, right when you pop up a new character, you'll get this. You'll take this morph, Consuming Trap, pretty much use it throughout the game, though it isn't a weapon or class skill line, but it can be very handy if you need resource sustain and you need something to get you through on healing if mobs die. And that's kind of the trajectory of where you want to go with your weapon and skill lines. Armor choices. What I would do if I were you is I put 5 pieces of medium armor on. I would keep 1 light and 1 heavy on. The reason why is you may want to use these active and passive skills towards the end of the game. The last thing you're going to want to do if you want to switch roles and start being a tank is having to go back, start all over, and level up heavy armor. So using 5-1-1 throughout the leveling process will allow you not only to level up your class skills if you put your bars like I said to do, also you're not going to come back and level up all this armor, making it much, much easier. And then once you get this done, I want you to focus on Fighters Guild, getting this level. All of these skills are actually fantastic. Mages Guild, not so much. Sigic, man, there's some cool things in here, not so much. But Undaunted. Undaunted by doing pledges, group dungeons, I think public dungeons as well. A bunch of different stuff. But your outside skill line should primarily be Fighters Guild and Undaunted. Also think about leveling PvP. Echoing Vigor, fantastic heal, though you do have to do some PvP to get a hold of it. And then also don't forget your racial passives. Those play a huge point, and medicinal use, making potions effects last longer. It will help you in endgame. So that's how the leveling process works. Now let's get into the skills. So the first skill we're going to have on our bar, we need a heal, okay? And this heal right here is very, very effective. It comes pretty early on in this class kit, so we're going to put it right here. You're going to summon this sucker, and once you summon it, you can activate it again. This thing usually doesn't die. It's pretty tanky, though it does have a channel cast time. It's going to kind of pepper and do a little damage. It's really not there for damage. What it's there for is to recast it to get some nice healing. As you get deeper in the skill line, you're going to be rewarded for having this on your bar, which is more health and stamina recovery. It's a fantastic ability, heal early on. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about resource sustain, something I use on almost all my 1-bar builds and some of my endgame builds. Consuming Trap. It's too good not to use. I didn't do one main story quest with this guy. I got this right away, morph it. It does actually do a damage over time effect. Not too bad on a physical damage user. So with 1 bar, it serves 2 purposes. If a mob we tag with this dies, great. It also does damage over time, so it's a single target damage ability that you can use in place of some more powerful dots, but it's just a must-have if we need some resource sustain. So that's going to go on my 2 key. My 3 key is going to be reserved for basically what makes the class unique, and that's Hurricane. Physical damage, 15 seconds, it grows in size, does more damage, gives us minor expedition, increases our physical and spell resistance. It's a nutty skill. It's just too good not to use on almost every single build. So I put this on here. We'll look at some of the other things that it does. Increases your weapon and spell damage for having it slotted. So we're going to get a passive bonus just for having this puppy slotted. No brainer. Keep this up at all times. Speaking of no brainer, well, we want to do a lot of damage, be very aggressive, and heal a lot. So yes, we have a heal here, but this is going to allow us to take on outnumbered mobs like you would not believe and have no trouble in this content with 1 bar. Veteran hard mode solos. Yes, you can do it. Now, they're not the latest and the greatest DLC ones, but, you know, if you have a companion, hey, that might change things. This is a game changer. Having it slotted, again, Stormcalling skill line, it's going to buff that up even more. So now we're at 6% with the Expert Mage passive. So very, very valuable, lasts a long time, and it's a good magic dump if you have a lot of extra magic. So that leaves our main spammable. You have two options, and actually I swap these out quite a bit. When I start most dungeons or farting around, I use Whirling Blades. It actually can be a decent spammable that you use. It doesn't do crazy damage single target, but it's in a radius, and it's going to increase the lower mobs get. So 50% or less is going to start increasing. You'll really see this ramp up around 30% health, doing very, very good damage. But most of the mobs, if you're just doing trash pulls or just kind of farting around doing quests, this thing suffices and it does really good. What you're going to want to swap out for if you're doing primarily single target is Shrouded Daggers. It's AoE, 3 targets, physical damage, sets them off balance, minor brutality, which is a little redundant with Crit Surge, but it just hits harder. Okay, and it's at range. Very, very nice. So I do swap these in and out. If you get stuck with Whirling Blades, it's not the end of the world. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to kill mobs. Just realize this is going to hit a lot of things in 6-meter radius. This is going to hit 3. But it does have a range and does have an interrupt. Play around with it, see which one you like. You could even do Bloodthirst here. That's another option. I've seen people use crystal weapons. Click it, do a light attack, click it, do a light attack. Feels very, very clunky to me. But I stuck with Whirling Blades and Shrouded Daggers and alternated. That leaves us with an ultimate. You got to do Stormy. 28 seconds, 170 ultimate. Does an AoE when you hit it, stuns mobs, nukes things, grants a synergy. It's just disgustingly good. When it lasts 28 seconds like this, what you realize is, in combat, if you're continuing to fight a mob, it's basically up like 75% of the time. As soon as it goes down, it's almost like back up again, because the ultimate cost is so reduced and the duration is so long. It's more of a single target ability, but you drop it on mobs, a group of mobs, it stuns them, giving you a lot of uptime. Just go in there and do a few Whirling Blades and get those mobs down. It's fantastic ability set up here. So your priorities are to cast this when you get started, and then very simple, 33-second buff and a 15-second buff. So pretty much you're going to cast Hurricane twice to every once you cast Crit Surge. And then your magic dump is going to be Consuming Trap. It will do decent damage. No, it's not going to be crazy dot like some of the other ones, but it'll do enough. So you have nothing else to do on a single target mob, you're going to cast this. And then you're also going to cast it on a couple mobs at the start of fights, because if they die, you're going to get massive burst heal and resource sustain. Fantastic, love this ability. When you're in trouble, you just pop summon Twilight Matriarch again, get a flood of health, and you drop Stormy on people's faces. It's really, really easy. So how I play this, so like I said, 33 seconds, 15 seconds. We got a little skeleton here, light attack, consuming. And then we're going to do our spammable. So I should have casted this guy out of combat. And that's what we're doing. So Consuming Trap's about to come off. I cast it. I cast Hurricane. And then you see, now Crit Surge is about 12 and Hurricane's at about 10. So I'm going to have to cast Hurricane again. Consuming Trap falls off. Got 1, 2, about 3 Hurricanes. Heavy attack, Hurricane, Crit Surge. So your hands should be glowing like that, and you should always look like this. This is a very easy way to get used to the Stam Sorc and include another bar, because if your Crit Surge is up and your Hurricane's up, you're going to be very hard to kill. So it makes it much, much easier to get used to this class when you just have the visual effect and the sound. Crit Surge is up, you can't see you, you're like invisible, plus your hands are glowing. That's when you know you're doing it right. Then throw in the Consuming Traps here and there, and then through some Whirling Blades, you should not have a problem. I'm going to spend a lot more time on gear in the end game part of this, which will be out later this week, but just to give you an idea of what I'm running, Briarheart pairs well with any Stam build and is very easy to get. It's in Hrothgar, Overland, you can get it from traders, adds weapon damage, and it heals you. Incredible. Blargs, crazy good monster helm for burst, along with Vicious Ophidian. Very good for mobility, stamina sustain, and it's just fun, really awesome set. Comes from Trials, Hell Raw AA, some of the beginner ones. And then a Maelstrom bow. I realize most folks watching this are probably not going to have access to the gear I just listed, and that's okay. I've ran a couple gear sets for years on most of my characters, and it does really, really well. Hunding's Rage, craftable set, adds 300 weapon damage, adds the 5-piece, very, very nice. Another one is Night Mother's Gaze. When you deal critical damage, you apply Major Breach to the enemy, reducing their physical and spell resistance as well. If you don't have Caltrops and you're not using that as part of your build, this will add a lot of damage, especially if you're playing solo, which I primarily use this for. So consider pairing this together. If you don't have that Major Breach reduction, it will do very, very well with Hundings. And that leaves either a Monster Helm or something very, very cheap you can get a hold of, or Agility. Agility daggers or swords or whatever, you can buy those off traders. You can get them from Imperial City. So you're going to run 2 5-pieces in Agility. It's going to be very, very effective for most of the game and the content you're going to do. On the gear, I suggest running Divines, Mundus Stones. On the gear, I suggest running all Divines on your body, all max stamina glyphs. On the jewelry, I suggest running all weapon damage, all bloodthirsty if you can afford it. I would go with daggers if you could with the precise trait. Remember, crit surge, crit is going to be good for us. Back bar with the bow, I'd run infuse with a weapon damage enchant if you can. So that's the quick gear setup. Let's do champion points. And I would go with the shinies. I'm just going to show you this. I have 1200 CP loadout on my website, so look in the description for that. I would go with the treasure hunter. Make my way here if you're going to farm gear. It makes a huge difference. I would go with a couple flavor ones. 10-minute food with rationer. Liquid efficiency, potions or poisons can save you some money. Steed out of combat. There's some really good ones if this is your primary crafter. But I go with that green loadout on almost every single one. Coming over here, I think the most invaluable ones, what I've been using is Fighting Finesse, crit damage, crit healing done. Deadly Aim, Thaumaturge, Biting Aura. You're going to come down here and Extended might at least get 10 points into Piercing, so it opens up all of these. Get some max stamina here, get some crit chance, very, very important. And then you're going to come down and drill down here. The most important are Preparation and Elemental Aegis. 10 points into Quick Recovery to unlock them. And I'd do a good split between these 3 and then 10 in Quick Recovery if you have access to it. Moving over to the Ready Spaghetti, the most important one you're trying to get a hold of is Bloody Renewal. So you're going to start here, make your way over. Hero's Vigor, also very, very good. You're going to want to max that out. Bloody Renewal. Once you got that one, then I'd come over here and max out Rejuvenation, Ironclad, Mindless Fatality, and you got pretty good shiny setup. Moving on to the food and consumables. If you're running 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy, and you have your Undaunted passives, you want to get around 23, 24k health. That seems to be the sweet spot in general. If you got that and you can sustain pretty well, go with the blue food. It's very, very helpful because it has the max stats you can possibly get. If you struggle with sustain, you're not using Consuming Trap, I'd go with the gold, whatever the heck this is called. It adds health, recovery, stamina, and stam recovery. Very, very good, but lower stats, right? Lower damage. Also, I like poisons on my front bar. So we have a couple different options. The Crown Store ones, actually I get a ton of them just from the daily rewards, so feel free to slot those puppies. They do just as good as the craftable damage health, 10 or 11, whatever the number is. So I would go with those, and then I have an enchant on your back bar bow. Those are the consumables. Mundus Stone. Since we want crits on a Stam Sorc, you have a couple different options. I typically go with the Shadow if my crit buffed is over 50%, which it is on this. I'm unbuffed right now. So that's what I'd recommend if you can get your crit up that high, depending on your weapons and precise trait. If it's below 50%, I would go with the Thief for increased crit chance. That's going to be very nice on a Stam Sorc because you're going to get a lot of healing. So more crit or more crit damage, the better our healing is going to be. Love it on a Stam Sorc. If you're flippy floppy going from PvE to PvP all the time, I'd go with the Warrior because then you're not going to have to change it all the time. It just makes it much easier. Let's talk about races real quick. Race that I like on this guy is an Orc. Reason why? Max stats. Max stamina, very, very good. Max health, also good. When you deal damage, you heal yourself for health. This can occur every 4 seconds. So on an Orc, paired this with Crit Surge, Consuming Trap, and all the other little trinkets we have, we're going to be very, very hard to kill. Incredibly hard to kill. Just awesome. And increases your weapon damage by a significant amount. Reduces sprint cost and increased movement speed. So the theme of the Stam Sorc Orc, fast, aggressive playstyle, it's a no-brainer. If you don't have it, Dark Elf is good, Khajiit is good, Wood Elf is good, Redguard is good, but if you're playing the ultra-aggressive playstyle, I would go with this. And that's the Stam Sorc 1 bar build. It's quite effective with 1 bar. Just a couple modifications, you can do really, really good. You can play most of the veteran trials. You could even do some of the arenas if you wanted. But this is the basics to get you started. We'll be doing more of a deep dive into the gear and gear options and some of the champion points and some of the other little things like rotation and what to do to add to this. But this will give you a good start, get you comfortable playing all the content, and hopefully you just have fun. Ultimately, this is a video game. We want to have fun. We make it easy, and you can be effective with one bar. As you progress, as you learn, then you're going to swap in new skills, put a bow on your back bar, even do more damage and start ripping and gripping. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to like, subscribe if you enjoyed this, and look for the full build later.